G'day, g'day, g'day. It's the Mathematical KM, or Keith Malumbi, coming to you with round 5 of the local tournament, Tuggeranong Chess Club. The white pieces, and yep, indeedy, it's going to be a water horse. And here we go. Fianchettoing on the king side, standard opening for the Hippo. Black's taking the centre. Fianchetto the bishop, black's taking the centre. Usual book move, usual pawn to go with that fianchetto. We're still in the book moves for both sides. Got the arrows turned on this time. Oh, that'll be interesting. Okay, computer doesn't like forming the hippo there. Okay, standard symmetrical setup over there with black. Developing his knights, taking the centre. Doing nothing wrong. Now again, denying that square to a knight and a bishop. Bishop doesn't come all the way to throw a check because it cannot. Okay, I find, yes, I could have gone to b4, but it might be safer to keep the pawns back a bit until I see how and where I want to attack. Bishop comes, protecting his central pawns, keeping the light bishop and the knight out of g4. Black castles. Fianchetto the second bishop. Hero bishop. Might even name this video after him. Bishop in the box. Not jack in the box, bishop in the box. Keep an eye on what this guy captures over the course of the game. Okay, here we go. Okay, got to watch for this as a Hippo player. We have a bit of a Queen Bishop combo there coming through. Need to have two pieces defending this pawn. Makes it hard to castle kingside. As we see, we may or may not castle. Get a knight into the middle. Okay, and we've got a similar situation coming this way, but with pawns in the way. Get our other white knight to the middle, and now we have the thick-skinned hippo. Black has one more move, and right, okay, this is the breather moment, as Solomon Chess Giant would say. Now, we've got a bishop on that one, so this pawn push is out. You'd lose this, so that's no good. You are meant to take a look. This pawn is protected by what? 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. The D pawn is it's highly protected. Okay. The E pawn, however, there's only that knight. That could be a good target. However, even though that's the one we'd like to go for, the f-pawn push is not on because we would lose our e-pawn and bad things would happen. But we would like to attack that pawn. Now we could play b4 with tempo, but that might just give black a second defender on that e-pawn, which is, not what we want to achieve here. We could take space, potentially moving forward, and I mean, it's not a bad idea in itself, but it's not really helping with the hunt. So, and the computer's actually got it in there, knight f3. Let's go hunting this pawn. That'll give us 2 pieces on it. You got to be aware of what you're going to do if he pushes forward. And probably, I was thinking at the time, bringing it out and chasing the bishop that's kind of in that battery. Can't come all the way here. If it comes to here, then with nowhere else for it to really go, we could have then moved the g-pawn. So I'm kind of expecting that I won't get to capture the e pawn from this little play, but we've made the threat. We've got the two pieces, one defender. And what black lashes out over here with his b pawn, not really watching what's going on. Now I've got to make a decision. I think the computer's showing that it agrees with me. I think I do go with the knight. The knight comes with a threat. It's threatening the queen there. It's only got the one defender, and then we'll come in. I'll get a knight and a pawn, and I'll be keeping my powerful, the bishops are the soul of the hippo, and I'll be keeping my bishop. So let's see how that plays out. We take, he captures, we take. Now, it's not there in the choices. Let's have a look. We're at plus 2.03 in the eval. But I was a little bit worried about this sort of thing, where the bishop's not really sacking itself, because he'd get the pawn, I'd get him back, or with the rook, and then the queen would take my bishop. So, you know, any move of that light bishop comes with a revealed attack on my hanging dark bishop. So rather than the castling or any of these things that the computer's asking for, let's see how it changes. Bishop in the box. It's come home, it's captured, we were going to remember this for the title, it's captured a knight. So far, a knight. See how much more this guy can get. Okay, and 1.6. So the computer didn't quite like it, but I enjoy that powerful bishop, and we've still got him. Okay, he's just doing some shoring up his pawns, and looking to connect my rooks if I have to, but also potentially, by developing the queen to here, the queen could form part of our own battery on that strong diagonal. Computer quite liked it. We're at plus 1.8. Not bad when we're plus 1 in terms of material, plus 1.8, so it doesn't mind what we're doing too much. Okay, shuffled a rook along the back. Might be looking at a pawn push. Now, don't like that bishop. I think I mentioned that before. And we might gain the bishop pair compared to black if he takes the knight, because we'll get to take back. And then my champion bishop will have taken a knight and a bishop. But if he doesn't take with his bishop, that bishop can't be there, can't be here, can't be here. Obviously doesn't want to be there. He could take it all the way back. But, yeah. Let's see how he feels about retreating with his bishop. Didn't like it. And here we go. The champion white dark bishop has now got a knight and a bishop. Good play. Oh, sorry, that was backwards. Threaten my bishop with a pawn. The pawn is protected by the queen. Bishop in a box jumps back to b2. It's popped out of its box to catch a knight and a bishop so far. Okay, so there's a bit of counterplay happening over here. We're still plus 1.7. But black does have a little bit of a pawn storm happening here. Okay, and this is a place where you could go wrong. Imagine if I took the c pawn with the b pawn. He would take back. You have a rook threatening my bishop apart from anything else. And he'd still have a pawn with tension on the d pawn. Not what I want. And in fact, that could be a problem. It's not at the moment because either the bishop or the queen could just take the pawn. But just imagine if there was a rook or something like that backing it. The move to play, I felt, because that isn't a problem yet, is to lock it up with the B pawn. If he takes this pawn, I'll take back with the C pawn, and then we've just got an open file that we can fight over, but my pawns are in pretty good nick still. So I've gone forward the B pawn. We're still at +2, so I'm going well with that. He's backing his C pawn, ready for a push. Let's get the bishop out in front. If the pawn comes forward now, I can just take it with the bishop. And if he doesn't push his pawn forward, then I can have my bishop outside of the pawn chain when I move the C pawn forward, which is a better place for the bishop. So what does black do? Brings a rook behind the D pawn. Computer wants castle. And I did. It's interesting, looking at it now, I would have probably moved that C pawn forward. I guess I'm still thinking that it's still quite safe. If he moves it forward, I can still take it with the bishop at this point in time. That being the case, castling, and there is no battery like there was on the H pawn, and if he reforms the battery, the king can take the second defender job. Speaking of, he just reformed the battery. Speaking of, king takes second defender job. That's interesting. He's jumped that bishop forward. That's giving him two pieces attacking this pawn, which has actually got two defenders. Were he to take the pawn, I'd take with the pawn. If he took the bishop, I'd take the queen. And then we'd have that open file to fight over. So it's not that dangerous yet. I guess hence what the computer thought of that move. Now, the computer didn't like that, but I did it for a few reasons. And I guess, in the end, my reasons worked. The computer might have been thinking something a bit trickier to do with that fairly strong piece, that bishop. On what has it taken so far? That'll be two knights and a bishop have fallen to this guy. That's not the main reason I did it. I've done it because he's going to have to... We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're up one pawn, but he's about to double them on the F file and double isolated and isolated. So I looked at that as a chance to really damage black's pawn structure, which I'm hoping will give me the game in the end. Okay, so yeah, isolated, double isolated, double isolated. And we've still got 8 pawns. It's a shame I didn't quite get through the whole game without losing a pawn, but that would have been a nice title for a video. Okay, so let's lock it up over where black does have pawns. Lock it up as much as we can. He's moved his king. Let's finish locking it up. Now, it was at +2 with the dark bishop. The computer obviously had some plan, but we are up 1 point of material and up 1.5 in the eval, so things aren't looking too bad. It's all pretty much locked with the pawns on the queen side. We've got a majority on the king side, and he's got isolated. So let's see, what are we going to do here? What are the current threats? We've got the battery on the H pawn, but we've got our 2 defenders. Maybe we can get some more defence over there, and maybe we can start a kingside pawn storm of our own. We shall see. Okay, so what's Sauron up to? As I tell the kids at the school where I teach, what did Sauron do? Why did he do it? Okay, there's, I guess, 2 defenders, but the king's got double duty there. He's defending this one and this one. So far, only the one attacker on the G file. Now I'm thinking about getting, if I can, a pawn to G4, protected by 2 pawns, and that'd be pretty strong defence against both the rook attack and the diagonal attack. But computer really didn't like it, and a really smart move would be getting that bishop into a bit of an outpost in here now. What did the computer... The computer really wanted me to break on through to the other side over here, which I could have done. I'll go forward. If he takes me, I take him with the rook. Or not, that's protected by a queen. If he takes me, he's protected and I can't take him back. You'd have to go deeper into that computer line, but as it is, I'm focused over here on the king side. Let's see what happens next. My opponent's also focused over here on the king side. He now has 2 pieces on the G-pawn. I've only got poor old king. There we go. Now the rook is the only piece on the G-pawn. The queen is the only attacker, and there's 2 defenders on the F-pawn. And the bishop's the only... I've really, at this point of the game, I'm going through, checking my defences all the way through. And also, let's try and keep all 8 pawns alive, but yeah, not really. Okay, he's looking to double up his rooks and have 2 pieces coming at the G-pawn, which has currently only got the king defending it. Need to do something about that. He hasn't doubled it yet, but that's what he's looking to do. I'm looking to do a rook across, bishop back. That way the bishop's still doing double duty with the king on the H-pawn, and the king and the rook are going to do the double duty on the G-pawn. A real little defensive chess. We've got the doubled rooks that we were expecting. I've got my 2 defenders on the G-pawn. I've got 2 on the H-pawn. There's only 1 attacker on the H-pawn, but so the defences are holding. Okay, we now have the battery on the H-pawn, but we do have our 2 defenders, so the bishop and the queen is still not enough on that H-pawn. And I can bring in the queen to, a little bit of additional defence here. On the G-pawn, I was thinking the G-pawn is perhaps the one that's most likely to end up with 3 on it. Here comes Harry. Interesting that it likes queen to A2. I very much... computer doesn't like it, but I like... And the computer's giving it nearly a draw at this point. Might take a look through some of those lines later, but for us mere mortals, I've held up Harry. It's going to be very hard to get on the diagonal for the G-pawn. And with his own pawns there, it's going to be hard to get on the diagonal for the H-pawn. If the bishop comes in, I can take it with my bishop. No worries. So the defence is looking pretty solid. Eventually, when the defences are solid enough, maybe I can push forward with my stuff. And in a funny old way, the white pawns have moved forward. It also looks a little bit like I'm playing drafts, not chess here, if you have a look at my pawns. But here we go. That was an interesting move, trying to infiltrate with that bishop. But the way I see this, well, it's suggesting that he come forward with his pawn, but if he did that, the queen couldn't ever get to where the bishop is, and yeah, kind of weird. But I thought, let's threaten that queen, and if he brings the bishop back, let's just get rid of it. I'm thinking trades are good. If we could get rid of all of the pieces and just keep the pawns as they are, I believe because of his doubled pawn, I would be able, so long as I got to the f5 square with a pawn first, I would definitely be able to get my king through, and I think it'd be a winning endgame. But for what it's worth, he takes back with his queen. Okay. Now, I've moved here, knowing that for now, he can't take with a rook. He can't sack a rook here because I've got... It wouldn't be a sack. He would be a sack, sorry. He takes, I take, he takes, I take. He'd lose both rooks for a rook and a pawn. And then maybe he could chase me with a queen, but I'd have my queen quite close and a rook of mine that could maybe come and help. Now, his rooks can't basically come and attack yet. And I did want to... The main reason for the queen there was... The main two reasons, like the Spanish Inquisition, our two main weapons, is I want to deny the queen infiltrating to here, or also give my queen a chance to take on h5 with check, should he provide me the chance. So his queen can't come in here, it can't come in here. It could go there, but that his first capture would then be with his queen, and the rook would take the queen, and it's not looking too good. Thinking the defences aren't too bad there at the moment. Now that is a bit of a blunder. He's thinking about perhaps that's a pretty undefended pawn here, the e pawn. Maybe he's even thinking about bringing a rook behind it as well. And hard for me to get another defender for that e pawn. But what my opponent has missed is going another pawn up comes with check. So that's kind of good. He blocks the only way he can. And this is a better square for my queen. We've got more defence of the g-pawn and more defence of the e-pawn. If need be, I can get a second defender for the e-pawn. And the queen can't come into, you know, say for example this square. So I think things, and the eval I think is jumped by about +1 from +0.5 to +1.5. Okay, now I think I mentioned that in this, back when it was showing an eval of 0, it was probably thinking that he could finish the pawn Maginot line, and if the pieces died, then it might be looking like being a draw. And dropping the pawn forward there, it looks like it might be a reasonable idea. But I'm looking at doubling my pawns, double my rooks, supporting a g-pawn push, which would be supported by 2 rooks and a queen. Now I can see that he's thinking, if he comes here, and I ignore it, if he takes me, I take him. If I haven't done anything about it, he can win a rook. But right up until I do something with that one, I can save my rook by just moving the other one forward one. I don't think I need to worry yet about that. Now I did have to move, computer didn't like it that much, but I had to move my king forward to protect Harry when I play that pawn forward. He's moved his king. Okay, so now it's all happening. If I take the pawn, it comes with check. So he might be going to move his king. If he moves his king where the computer's suggesting it, then I've even got pawn forward, which will come with check. And then I can try and force Harry through, who knows. But black goes with a plan of his own, gets the big blunder. He does have two pieces on the H pawn, which I'm going to ignore. As we gets called great, but we knew we were going to take with check and be threatening the queen. Okay. King runs. We take the queen. It's interesting. We got the queen for a pawn. Black is going to win my queen. Quite nicely too, but he's not getting it for a pawn. Forced move from that check. Forced move from that check. Rook takes queen, king takes rook. But the dust settles. I'll let the one more move. The dust settles, and we've got white's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns to 5 pawns. But more importantly, 2 rooks to 1 rook. And here we go. Let's double my rooks. He checks. Sure, I'll trade. He goes back. Doesn't want to trade because it really would be all over then. I'm going to try and bring my king. He's going to try and hide. Here comes my king. Computer suggesting that he infiltrate there. That's interesting. But he runs further with his king. For a little while at least, he can't get through here. I bring my king closer. And he's piling up, ready for a A-pawn push. But even if he takes my B-pawn, his king still hasn't got that square. So I'm going to do the rook lift of rook lifts. We go up. He comes forward with his A-pawn. We come across. His A-pawn takes my B-pawn. We come down. King can't run forward. He's got to run backwards. He runs backwards. We go check. If he runs to C8 or B8, then it will just be checkmate. But if he runs to the one the computer's suggesting, then I'll just go check. The king will run and it can't get to the rook, and I'll win his rook, and it'll be 2 rooks versus a king with some pawns that are largely blocked up. It's all over. It's at this point my opponent shook my hand. So there you go with another victorious hippopotamus with the bishop in a box that took out 2 rooks and a bishop. So well done to the white dark bishop. See you next time.